What is your best one time my dad story? I am a Bengali, and as all good Bengalis, we went to see tigers in North Bengal. Spoiler alert, no tigers. After one pretty disappointing day of missing 2 elephant herds and seeing no wildcat, much less a tiger, we stop at a dried up riverbed. We are effing tired, the sun is setting, the peacocks are screaming, the usual. Suddenly, we hear a growl. Monkeys are going nuts, the telltale sign of a tiger nearby. The guide tells us to rush to our jeeps. We oblige, but just before boarding, I see my dad smirking hard. After an hour of waiting, we see no tigers and head home. The next morning, while everyone is freaking out over the growl, Dad pulls me aside and says that it was a burp. A freaking burp. So I can proudly say that once my dad burped so hard the jungle thought it was a tiger. One time my dad waited till my 3 siblings and I had gone to bed on Christmas Eve. Then he shouted, "I don't care who you are, fat man. Get that sled off my roof." We were all up and telling Dad not to yell at Santa. This is the most adorable thing I have read on this thread. My dad was a fireman and picked me up from school in a fire engine once. When I was walking out to the car to leave for college, my dad yelled "hey" from the front door. I turn around. He takes this huge box of magnum-sized condoms and throws them at me as hard as he can. They hit me in the nose as he yells, "care package," and then ran inside laughing. That's very flattering, Dad, but I don't have much use for them. Not sure if small peen or virgin. One day, my dad answered the door in his underwear at 8 AM. The salesman was obviously weirded out. After he left, my mom was mortified and asked why he did that. My dad said if these people don't want a show, they shouldn't come for the matinee. I would do it just as a show of dominance. Either you will look at my poorly concealed junk or you will get the frick off my porch and peddle your wares elsewhere. One time we went to Universal Studios and my dad took me on the Hulk roller coaster even though he knew it would make him sick. I was afraid of coasters at that point and he sacrificed himself because he knew I would never go on the ride without him. When we got off, his face was completely colorless and his stomach was done working correctly for the rest of the day, but I loved the roller coaster. I didn't see my dad much. He lived 80 miles away and was getting his life together. I tried to see him once a month for a weekend. I would bring my homework and spend a few days with him. I'm sitting at his computer while he's watching TV in the same room, and he turns to me and asks if I want to see something. He retrieves a cardboard box from his closet and sets it on my lap, and I open it. Staring at me in the face is a 15 inches giant girthy purple dong. I look up to him with a confused expression, and he laughs out with a Cheshire grin. I'm going to make a lamp out of it. We laugh about it for the rest of the weekend, making dumb jokes. It was fun, but soon I'll leave for home, and I forget about the jokes and the dong. I return a month later, and open the door to his apartment to see that all of the walls had a faint purple hue. Looking down, I see this giant glowing purple dong suction cup to my dad's coffee table. I drop my bag slack-jawed as he steps up behind me and claps twice, and the lamp turns off. My dad made a dong lamp, and then gave it the clap. One time, my older brother and I were helping my dad cut down some trees in the backyard and the chainsaw kind of stuck and my dad yanked it out a little too hard and hit my brother's leg. We all froze and looked at his jeans, which had 4 or so perfectly spaced holes, but no blood. He had managed to hit my brother's pants, but didn't get in far enough to hit flesh. The next words out of his mouth were pretty obvious. "Don't tell your mother," and we still haven't 20+ years later. One time, just before I graduated high school, my dad sat me down to have a serious conversation about socializing in college. It turned into him telling me a bunch of crazy party stories and suggesting that the best way to make friends is to own a blender with a 100-foot extension cord, because his friends would go outside to play basketball or whatever and he'd bring his blender out with them and make margaritas. We met so many girls because of that blender. People like the guy with the blender. My dad is super serious and straight-laced most of the time. It totally caught me off guard. One time, I asked my dad to rent The Notebook for me from the Good Old Family video up the street. He rented Nacho Libre because he could only remember it started with a N. He knew what he was doing. One time my dad literally took candy from a baby. A 2-year-old held up a lollipop and my dad assumed the kid was giving it to him. After taking it and walking away, He realized the toddler probably just wanted to show it to him. One time my dad took my brother's walkie-talkie and had us and about 10 kids in the neighborhood convinced that we had picked up a signal from a plane that was crashing towards the earth. We were running up and down the streets for an hour with our eyes on the sky listening as the pilot tried to reach someone for help. Dad's windows were open so we eventually caught onto the heinous laughter echoing between the houses after every mayday. Your dad is a dong. A glorious dong. Funny as frick. One time my dad set my mom on fire. This was about 2 years ago. We were camping and were having trouble getting a fire started. My dad remembered that he had a container of flame accelerant in the trailer. I think it was lighter fluid or something. Anyways, he squirted some of it into the fire pit and we got it going. A little bit later, he decided it would be a really great idea to just use up the rest of the accelerant so he pours it on the fire, not the wood, like before. Flames. So the bottle obviously starts on fire as well, and my dad freaks out and throws it on the ground and then tries to stomp on it to put it out, which led to a stream of flames and fluid shooting out from the bottle and landing right on my mom's leg. It only burned for about 5 seconds and I kept yelling stop, drop and roll at her, which she, of course, did not do, and tried to hold my laughter in until my mother was no longer ablaze. My dad isn't in charge of starting fires anymore. MI doesn't allow the good fireworks, but Indiana does. So every June my dad would drive across the border and pick up a trunk full. One rather inebriated 4th of July. He reaches in the back, pulls out what appears to be an oversized confetti popper and aims it at the tree before pulling the trigger. It was not a party popper, it was his emergency flare. It got stuck towards the top of the tree and turned the whole neighborhood orange. The cops in my hometown wouldn't really turn out for reports of the good fireworks unless someone lit a car on fire or something, but they will definitely turn out en masse for an emergency flare. Dad went from drunk to drill sergeant in about 2 seconds. Somehow, we managed to shove the entire stock of the good fireworks into the garage and used snow shovels to push the husks of the used ones into the parking lot across the street. When the 3 police cars and the fire rescue truck showed up, as kids were playing with sparklers and Dad was standing with his hands on his hips, scowling at the tree. Why yes, officer, some punks were across the street, lighting off Roman candles and huge fountains, and they ran when one of their tricks got stuck in the tree. He was just about to call when they ran off. Don't they know that Roman candles are dangerous? They coulda hit one of the kids. About 5 years ago, my dad accidentally cut 3 of his fingers off in our garage with a saw. My niece was only like 5 months old at the time, so growing up, she's never seen my dad with all of his digits. Anyway, when she was about 2.5, she noticed that one of his hands was different. So, one day she asked him, "Grandpappy, what happened to your fingers?" My dad looked down at his hand all shocked and said, "Someone stole them." Her face had the look of pure horror, and she screamed, "Who stole your fingers?" My dad looked at my mom and said, "Grandmommy stole them." My niece ran up to my mom and started beating on her legs, searching her jeans pockets to give back her grandpappy's fingers. My dad, man. That's very cute. One time, my dad was sitting on the couch in our living room. Mom brought out a bag of sugar and asked him to open it. He opened it like it was a bag of Doritos, and I mean, it was everywhere. He was only wearing his shorts, so there was sugar in just about every square inch of his visible hair as well as all over our couch and carpet. Took him 4 showers in a row to get it all off. And that's where sugar daddies come from. One time my dad made me drive 3 hours from home to visit a nature preserve. He then began taking pics of the birds there. Just one problem. The birds were plastic. Turns out the flocks had stopped migrating back to the preserve, so they put up plastic birds for tourists. The funniest part was how long it took him to listen to me telling him they were plastic. They put them up to attract the birds, not tourists. One time when I was 6 I got my big toenail ripped off, and my dad convinced me to put the toenail under my pillow for the toenail fairy. I got $1. This is genuinely sweet. Your dad loves you. Or at least he used to. He might not anymore. I don't know. When I was 17, my crush arrived to pick me up to go hang out. He didn't come to the front door. He just honked from the driveway. So my dad got all pissy. That's not how you treat a lady. Honking is unacceptable. And didn't let me go out. He brought up that scenario repeatedly for years as a baseline for how my dates should treat me. He hated that guy. I got married a few years later, and my husband died a few years into our relationship. A few years after he died, I was joking with my dad about the guy honking his horn, and my dad looks at me and says, "Wait, that was the same guy." "Yes dad, that was the same guy." He'd never realized that I'd married the honking guy. I didn't know that he didn't know. My kids love that story. It's pretty hilarious. Huh, that's a funny story. Except for your husband dying. I'm incredibly sorry for your loss. When the new Star Wars movies came out, we were in elementary school. My dad's company had booked the whole theater to see it on opening day, so we got to leave school early to see it. My dad dressed up as Darth Vader, full costume with helmet and lightsaber, and snuck into our classroom and came up behind us saying, "Kid's name, I am your father." At the time I don't think it was possible to be more embarrassed, but now I think that was pretty hilarious of my dad to do that. Me and few of my friends used to hold a poker night each week, which my dad used to play too. He got particularly drunk one night and was getting on his bicycle to go home. It was icy outside and we spent around 15 minutes trying to persuade him to have a lift off one of my friends. He refused. 10 minutes later there's a knock at the front door and he's there with blood dripping down and covering half his face. All he said was, "I fell over." He then came in, fell over again, washed his face and went to sleep on couch. One time my dad crapped his jeans on the side of the road on the way to my volleyball tournament. We were running late for the tournament, so he threw the pants in the woods and had dress pants in the car. He walked around the tournament all day in a red volleyball sweatshirt and pinstripe dress pants. One time, when I was younger and embarrassed about my body and potential dirty words, my dad made a song about dongs and coochies and sang it any opportunity he could just to embarrass me. One time my dad was on a business trip and he ended up getting upgraded to first class. He ended up talking with this guy seated near him for a majority of the flight. Turned out that guy was Usher. One time my dad made a remote control car and put me as a toddler on it and drove me around. One time my dad was riding his bike on a 3-foot tall brick wall, slipped off, hit his head on it and got knocked out behind it for an hour or so. My grandma almost called the cops to file him missing. He also tried to see how far he could pee into a urinal, about 10 feet before he got caught by a teacher walking into the bathroom. He also dared his best friend to throw a full milk carton at a teacher. His friend did it. That teacher was also my grandma's best friend at the time. Him and my uncle were throwing snowballs at cars passing on the highway. They hit an undercover detective. They ran back to the house and while my aunt didn't know, they snuck back in and she had to talk to the detective. He also stole my aunt's VW Beetle and took it for a midnight joyride. They got it stuck in a ditch and had a farmer pull it out with a tractor. She just found out last year, nearly 40 years later. He really likes car horns. When we were kids he held down the horn on a country road until the horn gave out and was just squeaking, trying to make noise. He recently got a new aerating trailer for his lawn mower and he was so excited about it that he did 3 of our neighbors' yards for fun. He also got himself a Christmas present a few years back and yelled "yes thank you" when he opened it. That same Christmas my mom got him a new coffee maker and he spent the entire night setting it up and making everyone coffee. He bought a motorcycle as a midlife crisis thing. He kept it a secret from my grandma for 3 years. A 50-year-old man hiding things from his mom. My older brother fired an arrow almost straight up in the air. It came back down right on the peak of our shed, sticking straight up and dead center. You could tell he was trying not to laugh while scolding us. We were having a bonfire one night and one of my brother's friends put a Mountain Dew can near the fire so it heated up slowly. When it exploded it sounded like a mortar went off. It sent embers 40 feet into the air and 25 feet around. After gaining our sense we could see our dad's silhouette sprinting inside the house because either we were getting shot at. I've never seen him move that fast. To clarify, he was already in the house. One time my dad saw me put a rubber band around the sink's small water hose thing that I had specifically set up for him, but instead of saying anything he left it there and watched for the next victim. He laughed so hard when the older man we rented the basement to yelled out "WTF" and turned around with his shirt wet. One time I was in another room and the phone rang. I hear my dad answer the phone when a telemarketer called, and they asked if he wants his ductwork cleaned. He said, yes, I would love to have my ducts cleaned. Quack quack, quack quack, and then just hangs up on the guy. One time my dad went to Costco to buy batteries. He spent $500. He forgot the batteries. One time my dad almost slit my throat because he thought I was a burglar. I had snuck downstairs for some reason. I was in the kitchen and heard him coming in, so I hid behind the kitchen counter. Heard my dad opening drawers and things. Next thing I know he had leaned over the counter and grabbed my head. Had a kitchen knife to my throat. A split second later he realized it was me and dropped me. Then I got yelled at because he had heard me breathing. Thought I was a home intruder, and I almost got in a world of pain. He was shaking from adrenaline. As a dad now myself, I can imagine the state of mind he was in. My dad once put off going to the optometrist for 3 years. When he finally went, it turned out his right eye was in charge of looking at things far away and his left eye only looked at things close up. Sometime during those 3 years he became farsighted and his brain compensated. One time my dad went to my school event in jeans, a jean shirt and a jean jacket. When I was a child, around 8 or 9 years old, my parents and I were vacationing in Las Vegas, staying at the MGM Grand. Downstairs in the hotel were shops and restaurants and I had to use the bathroom. I went into the stall, did my business, and then to my childlike horror I discovered the door was stuck. The door was the type close to the floor and there wasn't room to crawl out. I yelled for my dad who was using the urinal and he walks over, grabs the door, and literally yanks it off its hinges, like it was nothing, sets the door against the wall and we just walk out. I'll never forget it. One time my dad set someone on fire. He was standing with a group of people having a smoke. This girl walked up and asked for a light. My dad said sure, she lent, and as he lit the lighter and her hair went right into the flame, causing her hair to catch fire. Apparently someone had a little too much hairspray. She was fine and didn't suffer any serious injuries. Dad still tells people the story to this day. One time my dad saw I was in a really low mood, so he walked into my room, grabbed my trash Hatsune Miku wig and my swim goggles, put them both on and followed me around for a solid 10 minutes, completely nonchalant, to make me laugh. Imagine, if you will, a large imposing black man wearing a teal pigtailed wig and goggles so old they're turning brown, causally making himself a sandwich. You've been visited by the good sleep capybara. Upvote within the next 5 seconds and you will be blessed with cozy and restful sleeps. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.